everybody to Running Deep with Shotty and Ramius. Today's episode, we're going to start out with our very first episode on something that we call Rules of Engagement, or ROW. This particular episode is going to be titled No Row, because we have some folks with us today that play by a little bit um, different set of rules that they follow. Be a fair assessment. I am Shotty. My co-host is Ramius. Ramius, say hi.
Hello, everybody.
And today with us we have, if you don't mind, we'll start out with ladies first. Please introduce yourself and the alliance that you're with.
I am Lieutenant Wingo. I am the Admiral of the JLPZ sector of the JLP family.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. And for the gentleman on our panel.
This is Noli Tangere. I am one of the founders of JLP and the founder of every single branch of JLP extended, except for Y. I had nothing to do with that.
Nice. All right. And with that being said, thank you, Noli. Thank you, Wingo, for showing up and hanging out with us today for a little while as we pick your brain, kind of get inside of your head and see what is exactly going on. And we don't mean it in a native context. We just want to know what's going on. With that being said, lay out some ground rules. Actually, before we go to the ground rules, Ramius and myself are members of the Shuttle family. We are the Challenger side of the house. We have the Columbia side of the house as well, and the Enterprise side of the house. But the Columbia and Challenger are the main two groups as far as that goes. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, ground rules. And this goes for everybody. Nobody's immune to this. So, ground rule number 1: no judgment. We're not going to judge anybody. We're not going to say, "Oh my God, you guys don't follow row. You're terrible." You might get the occasional, poke fun, boo, whatever. But yeah, we're not gonna hammer anybody. That's not what we're doing here. But we do like to joke around about things, have a little bit of fun. So other than that, no actual harsh judgment. Period. None. And then no condemnation. We're not going to say, "Hey, you guys are just terrible people because of it." We want to be respectful. We're going to give you guys your time to talk. We're not going to, interject. We'll obviously ask some questions to understand, but that's going to be the level of it. But yes, respect is huge here. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and start the fun. Now, everybody on our server, we play on server 22. Everybody has done something about some sort of rules of engagement, or row is what we'll call it. Where exactly is JLP stand on row, and how do you guys feel about what other alliances do?
Noli, I think that's a question to start.
All right. Well, JLP doesn't believe in any kind of a unified row. We're not organized. I'm not even a member of actual JLP currently, but JLP isn't organized in the same way that any of the other alliances are on the server. If you have a row, it's a personal row, and it's your personal choice. JLP does not ask anyone to do anything involving row, for, against, one way or the other.
Okay.
I would say that, that's a lot of people mistake my personal row. Actually, be friendly. I think that's why I get so many people on our server. Not the way I play, but it does offer openness. Let's say rampage, feel like it. So it's nice to not. What was so appealing about joining for the first? Oh, I don't have to do anybody, to no one, or I can answer to everybody. The flexibility to play the way I want to, exactly what anyone. Which, you know, the brunt of the issue, how do you play?
Okay, I'm not sure. I missed about every other word on that one, Wingo. I apologize. And I'm not sure if it was an audio issue on my end or if anybody
That's
else heard
fine. I can see it in my voice settings too. I'm also trying to speak. I'm a very loud individual in life in general. So I don't want your listeners to just blast off out of nowhere and be like, "Oh, I can't stand this girl now."
Yeah, you might try that one more time because it was clipping out on my end too. I thought it was maybe where I am, but yeah.
PSA for our listeners: check your headphone levels.
My sensitivity is pretty high too. I was a little, I was like, "Oh, okay, that's good." But to recap in a shorter sense of what my relationship with people on the server is very strong because I do have more of a what we would call a personal road that is traditional in the sense of what we offer on our on what most alliances practice. I do this a lot of times for a more practical standing because I think that as an admiral, it on some level it's a little bit easier on my boys and girls. I think I have a few girls to be a little bit more PC in the sense of how I play. But the freedom that everybody else, has to offer is what made JLP most attractive in the beginning. Because, when you first start playing, you kind of don't know how you want to play. Especially when you're learning the game for the first time. It's like, I can do as little as I want to, or I can just rampage anytime I want to. Which, the occasional rampage can be quite entertaining here and there.
Yeah, and that's actually I think that's a pretty solid understanding of what I've had when I've chatted, in game with a lot of JLP, and I'm sure Ramius will second me on that one.
Definitely. I think we all go through those phases where the rampage is necessary, whether it's a real life thing that's caused some pressure and you need to just kill some stuff, or maybe somebody's pushed your buttons in a certain way and it's time to exact a little revenge by way of destroying all their ships and anybody else that happens to get in the way. The biggest thing, I think, kind of consistently is how do we go about that? And in the other content creators that we've seen, they'll get into, well, it must be this, it must be that. And so getting your perspective on this is really interesting for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
If I may, JLP's main objection with ROE isn't in so much as believing that, again, on an individual level, like, don't attack miners. There's plenty of JLP that don't try to attack miners. The problem with ROE from a JLP perspective is how the rest of the server, or at least the propensity of the rest of the server, tries to force their own rule set that maybe they internally agreed upon JLP, and that's where a lot of objection is from.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you on that one because there are, as we said, kind of in pre-show there are some folks that are just like, it's, you do ROE or not, and for a little while I have to admit I was one of those people like, why doesn't just everybody adopt some sort of ROE and just kind of play? There's just, things are going to vary. But now that we have a lot better understanding of where JLP comes from, that does make a ton of sense. But like you said, there's going to be times where it's like, screw it. I've had something go on and I just need to go wreck some stuff, or as Ramia said, you've had somebody that's pushed your buttons a little bit too far and they've kicked the wrong switch, and it's like, hey, it's time to show you that I'm not going to sit here and take this lion down. So we're gonna have it out and we're gonna shake hands at the end of it, and if we do, we do, and we don't, we don't. Just be ready in case you start shenanigans again. So there's many different views. And I know that there actually are some players that are of that mindset. It's like, hey, I'm not really digging this, so you might want to back up a little bit. And then you have those ones that there. Unfortunately, there's some whales out there that are they don't care. They just hit whatever they want and fly off because they know that some low level 25 is not going to be able to knock a 38 off their pedestal by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
Yeah.
So since you brought up the war, Noli, tell us about the impression from the JLP side, because you mentioned in a side conversation that it wasn't mutual. So can you expound on that a little bit?
I'm sorry. Could you elucidate on that? Do you go into that a little?
We were talking earlier about the war against JLP, trying to get JLP to participate in the server-wide rules of engagement. What was your impression of that as part of leadership of JLP, and did it really have an impact on you guys at that point?
Well, I mean, yes and no. Like I had mentioned earlier, just to bring that back around, is that largely the player base of JLP in its current incarnation is PvPers. So, frankly, it was just feeding them the kind of content that they were looking for. Now, once upon a time, various aspects of JLP were not PvPers, but since so many different groups just simply saw the tag JLP and decided to attack them without really finding out what those subgroups were like, because every time I founded a new group, it was an attempt to try to have something different going on. They were just effectively PvP'd into a corner where they either had to become PvPers or they left JLP as a whole. So by the time the war came around, most of it was kind of hardened vets, and what few weren't, it rattled a few. Nobody of any particular importance as far as that's concerned, and not in any kind of numbers. We kept a running poll to see if it really was affecting anybody, and of all the respondents, there was a percent, not even in the double digits, that said that they were in any way adversely affected by it.
All right. Well, thanks. I know it was interesting being on the other side of that, where we saw different alliances go back and look at how were they structured, what were they doing. At the time that we were participating in the conflict, INS had several members that went to the completely neutral alliances, so they didn't have to participate in one way or the other. And so it was very interesting to watch both sides, looking at the statistics for the different alliances, looking at JLP alliances, looking at our own, and watching as players migrated from one alliance to the other. The internal politics of how that worked too were also very interesting. So it's hard for one group to force their will on another, and so I think we all learned how to communicate a little bit better out of it, if nothing else. At least that's my opinion.
And I'll say from my end, I have a ton of respect for a lot of JLP members across all the different levels of JLP. I've actually gained a lot of respect from some of the bigger guys. I had an instance where some Yahoo got on there. He was actually in AC, or not AC, but he was in GC, just running his trap. And I finally had enough, and I piped in. It's like, look, man, we don't really need the negativity here. We're all trying to have a good time. We're playing this game to get away from everyday life and get away from the things that stress us out. And we really don't need you here being a jackwagon. So you've got a couple options: shut it, or go back in NAC and say what you're going to say. And the dude called me out. I'm like, man, all right, fine. Here's my chords. And I posted my chords in GC. And prior to me doing that, Khan, of all people, hit me up. He goes, just shut him down. Take him out. I'm like, all right. I said, let's do this. So
Sounds like con.
yeah, it was hilarious. He's like, I've got your back. I'm like, huh? He goes, I'm dead serious. I've got your back. Nobody's gonna jack with your base. I've got your back. I'm like, all right. So I threw my cords out there. I actually sent my cords to Khan first, and he poured it in next to me. And then I believe it was, yeah, that's the guy's name. Sorry about name dropping, but this dude was just a complete, not so nice person. And he actually went on, and I'm gonna use allegedly because I'm not into slandering, although it is true. He allegedly was rattling off some racist crap in GC, and people were calling him out on it. And I finally told him, I said, "Here's your chance to put up or shut up. Let's do this." And Con poured it in next to me. I threw my cords out in GC. I said, "Y'all can pour it in and watch, or you can just click on the cords to watch, because this is going to be an ass whooping." Was pretty much how I threw it down in GC, and everybody's like, "All right." Somebody's like, "Hey, I'm bringing popcorn." Somebody else offered caramel apples or some crap. But anywho, so it was just a good time. So dude sent his ships, and I'm like, all right. So I got every single ship that I had in my fleet ready to go, and as soon as I seen one, I'm sitting there waiting. He got about a couple stations away from me, and I just started drilling him a couple times. And he like did an insta repair and came back and drilled the ship that was injured. It's like, okay, well, that's gonna happen. So I answered every shot that he had, and from that point, Khan's like, you have my utmost respect. If you need anything at all, let me know. And so, an instance like that, where an alliance that I kind of was an adversary, for somebody to step over across the line and stick their hand out, that was really cool for me.
And that brings up a really good point. I mean, even just most recently, and if you're a part of, I can't remember whose mutual Discord server it is, but we've had several JLP members over the years overstep the line. Whether it's racist, misogynist, and we don't tolerate that kind of behavior on any level whatsoever. And we have no qualms against booting people. It doesn't matter how good of a player, relative to what that even means, that somebody is. But the minute that you cross the line and you become a garbage person, there's no tolerance of that. There's no point, because you're right. We're here to play a game, and we're here to have fun. And then when you have somebody who steps that line, it's not fun anymore. You're not a fun person, and we don't have time for that. So it's not uncommon, to unfortunately run into people who, we deem, inviolable, and whatever image we want to represent of us is certainly never going to involve anybody who speaks ill about somebody or wishes harm upon somebody. So it's good. It's always nice to hear that there is outside support and people are noticing that.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the big things is, how to word this one. I started kind of on my end. I look at the game as kind of a community, and this is something that me and Ramius are going to touch on. That we actually touched on with our intro, is we see everybody, JLP, everybody that's on the server, everybody that's in server 22 that's ever deployed a ship is a community. We've unfortunately had a few deaths in our community. They namely Screw, and we're not by any means profiting off of that. We have nothing but the utmost respect for Screw. Unfortunately, we lost him to cancer. It was a terrible time. The whole server felt it. I didn't quite know Screw as well as most did, but to know that a human life had been extinguished because of a terrible disease, it'll make the hardest person at least shed a tear, if they have any sort of heart. And and here just recently we had a member of DDHH lost their significant other to cancer as well. Um, so as far as the community goes, when I first started this game a year ago, I felt the community atmosphere, and it was great. And it actually had reminded me of a PlayStation Network clan. We call it clans on consoles, but we started a clan 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and this clan is now system-wide as far as PlayStation Network, Xbox, you name it. We play all kinds of games, and we actually have our own Facebook page. Grew to well over 100 members. And to the point where if any of us ever got on downtrodden or hard times or whatever, we'd try to pull up any money that we could or support or be in there. And we unfortunately lost our leader about 4 years ago. But when I got into this game, it reminded me very much so of that clan that I helped found, the family, the love. And it really touched my heart to know that everybody's like, hey, server's going dead for activity. Everybody mine, do what you want, mourn, no attacks, nowhere. Those that violate the rule will be handled in due time. We are doing this out of respect. And to preface it, it's amazing how, like you said, you guys don't tolerate bullcrap from anybody as far as treating people less than a human being. It just doesn't fly. Same with us. And when everybody comes together to end it is a pretty amazing thing, regardless of what side of the battlefield you're on.
Yeah. Your miners, on the other hand, are. We don't guarantee how we treat those, but
no. But as far as, like I said, when it comes to a server-wide ceasefire in remembrance, everybody put their differences aside, and that's kind of what I was getting at. Was we all put our differences aside? It didn't matter. I mean, there's those few that either didn't care or whatever, and teach their own. But for I would say a good 98% of the server, everybody's just like, hey, let's show a little bit of love. Let them know that we're here for them.
Yeah, I think that was really good to see, and I think the fact that we have these discussions, we have built relationships, and it really doesn't matter the tag, and that's continuing to improve, is really heartwarming to me. I was dealing with one of the other officers actually in the Challenger Alliance the other day because he saw that both of you had been invited into our Discord as ambassadors. It's like, well, why wouldn't I? Well, then they'll see this and they'll see that. I'm like, no, it's a place to have a conversation. And those conversations are going to happen one-on-one. In the meantime, if you don't know how to get in touch, they're right there. Get over it. And that person went on a good 5-minute rant in text about how I was jeopardizing the alliance and letting spies in and all this kind of stuff. It's like, dude, we're people. We're playing a game, and they're actually both really nice people. And yes, I want them at the table so we can have a conversation. Period.
And the cool thing, to kind of add to that, Ramus, is there's nothing here to give away. You guys know how we play. We know how you guys play. You're just giving us, and we're giving you, a more defined answer. There's no trade secrets. We're not saying, hey, we do such and such with this many ships to this particular sector to do mining or whatever. We're not giving up any trade secrets of our families because it's still strategy involved with the game. But this just brings a voice to the game. More than just, oh, here's some text from everybody in AC. Here's some BS banner going back and forth in the DMs. Here's some friendly banner going back and forth in the DMs. And then, the everybody's GC banner. you get to see and you get to hear that we're all human beings, and that's kind of that's what the game's about, right? People playing a game together, being human beings.
Last time I checked.
But
Well, I think the biggest misnomer that I saw in that communication was, hey, well, when we're dealing with this faction JLP and they're doing this and they're playing by rules of engagement, then their officers are going to see it and they might get in trouble. Well, clearly that's not the case. That's exactly what you guys said just a little while ago. But it's one thing coming from me. It's another thing coming from you guys.
JLP has very, very few rules. It was designed that way on purpose. Really, in case you're unaware, the rules functionally are always respect the vote. We vote on any. I keep on using that term. JLP votes on any kind of major decision that they make. 2, no drama in JLP Discord or Alliance chat, which could explain why sometimes you see that drama get pulled out into GC, because generally JLP is taking the opinion that if you want to do drama, if you want to call people names, if you want to be belligerent or provocative in some respect, you want to do that in GC, that's fine. If that's how you want to get out your little trolling urges, then so be it. But don't bring that home, right?
Sure. It's like leave work at work, leave home at home.
And in general, have fun. It's a game, and nobody tells. Like, you think that the leadership of JLP is the leadership of JLP. The leadership of JLP is the leadership of JLP only because they get the premise behind JLP and will maintain that. Not because they tell anyone to do anything. In fact, for anyone to tell anyone to do anything in JLP is an anathema to the very foundation of JLP.
I'm going to Google that word later.
That's one of those 4-syllable words.
JLP has never declared war on anyone. Now, it might be perceived that we all seem to be ganging up on someone because maybe someone had a beef and he talked his friends into joining him, and that brought in other people and so on. So maybe your side decided to start random hitting our people, and then those people are like, well, okay, fine, I'll jump in on this stuff too, and it snowballs. But JLP makes no open declarations of war. They're not interested in it because that would be telling people you need to go do X. And that's something that is literally baked into the core of JLP never to have happen.
That right there is absolutely enlightening, because I know you guys, it's one thing to hear, there's no rules, or minimal rules, minimalist rules. Then, you actually sit here and explain, hey, this is what we're doing. It's not, we're not messing with anybody's free will. It's do as you wish, but be respectful as you do it. Now, obviously,
within limits, right?
Within limits, you have some folks that they're belligerent by nature, and it's like, okay. And then you have other folks just like yourself, just like Wingo, just like Glaz. I could sit here and rattle off names for days of the folks that I've encountered again throughout the whole JLP family system. And if you don't, am I good calling it a family system, or do you guys prefer something else?
No, yeah, it's definitely. I came up with an actual political name for what exactly our structure was, but functionally, yes, it's a very family system. There's no hard, like, everyone goes to Not Your Star as our quote unquote leader because he is the Admiral of the original founding branch. But really, when it comes down to it, like back in the leadership chat, everything gets bantered around evenly. And then even if they make up their mind on something, it then goes to a vote for the general population if it's something of major, core JLP changing, like the nap with Ghost or whatever.
Okay. So yeah, well, that just, again, clarified just
that sounds awful familiar, though.
It does. It does.
So kind of taking the other side of this, originally INS, now the shuttle family, when we started expanding, and I was the one that said, hey, we need a training alliance, and was sent off on the mission to build INS A, B, and C. And we had the discussion, do we vote or do we rule through the leadership? And the decision was made to let the leadership rule and set the rules for the family. And ultimately, that singular decision is what caused the creation of the shuttle family, because instructions were given, instructions weren't followed, and next thing you know, we had a change in leadership because those that had been in leadership needed to change, and we ended up in a situation where now all the major decisions are voted upon, and we have different voting channels so everybody can get in there, express their point of view. And right now we're modifying the rules of engagement, and there's an ongoing vote that will be finished up tomorrow, and we'll have that clarified. So it's interesting.
Now, like I said, as far as rules of engagement on our end, it's more that way we can give everybody, not just us, but everybody, an opportunity to mine in peace, gather some resources, so we can build, so we can compete on a combat level, on a PvP level. We are definitely not an alliance that does zero PvP, because we love to get out there and mix it up with everybody else. It's just a good time. That's what we're
sure, but just for the sake of argument, that there is the other side of that coin. When you have no combat amongst miners, then what happens is the bigger, more powerful, possibly wallet warrior, not that I'm terribly impressed by that term, players can camp, constantly rotating their miners on top of good positioned mines. And the smaller the player, the less likely that they can have a chance to wiggle into that situation. Purges like JC's, and yes, you can use this as a segue to bring up him, actually serve a great purpose to reset a lot of that. Yes, I know there's the zero, minor rules, and yes, there's op and stuff like that. That's not consistent amongst the entire server. But suffice to say, part of the row does inherently inhibit some of the more smaller players from, at least I feel, from getting a fair shake at those mining spots.
right. And which I'm glad you brought up JC. When the first time I ever encountered Johnny, we were pretty much on the same level. So he'd roll in, I'd smack him around a little bit, and then he'd buzz off, go somewhere else, and likewise. And as he got stronger, it was a little bit more difficult for me, because we all started about the same time. You can tell who's dropped a little bit more money or maybe grinded a little bit harder. And I don't want to say that everybody that grinds hard is slinging money at her, but it's a high level slinging money. Because I think we've all dropped a couple bucks here and there. Fair to say. But in respect to that, at first it was irritating as hell, because you're sitting there on the mine, you're moving right along, or you just got set, and you're like, all right, cool, I'm going to do a little bit of mining. And then all of a sudden, there goes your miner. It's like, what the hell is going on here? And nobody understood it. But he went through and he was clearing out mines. As time progressed, and you sit there and you look at things and you watch, it's like, you know what? I'm just going to use this to my advantage. So the minute that somebody says, hey, and I've seen it in GC, hey, Johnny's over here in this area, sweet. I'm going to bring my miner back. I'm going to load up the right crew, and I'm going to go to that area because he just cleared it out. I'm going to hop on a mine. I'm using it for my benefit. Not saying that he hasn't hit me, because he's hit me multiple times, but I've also taken advantage of it and capitalized from it, because like, hey, cool, you just booted somebody out of the way. Here I come. I'm going to park right here, and I'm going to get my little mining in, and then I'm going to buzz off and do something else. But like you said, you do have some of those whales, those ones that have dumped a crazy amount of money into this game, that do kind of hog up the good spots. Now, with that being said, and I'm going to caveat toward a different area on that, there are higher mining systems there are, if you're that high of a level, you can move up into higher areas where, I can't reach. I may not be able to get up to the 40 system, or I may not be able to get into the 30
it's so
system.
much nicer.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Rub it in, Ramius. Jerk. No, it's just one of those things. Like, I don't have the opportunity to get into those higher systems. So as in reality, as the game was designed, not saying that this was the only design, you can mine whatever the hell you want. It's great. It's awesome. That's the beauty of the game. Mine in a low-level par system at the very beginning of life, or once you finally get up to where you're a level 39 or wherever the level cap is right now, and you can move into those bigger, larger sectors, and you can mine there. And you can mine everywhere in between. But the game's, in reality, the kind of the in a nutshell design was, we're putting higher, thicker resources in these higher levels, larger warp distances, so on and so forth. We want everybody to kind of migrate that way. That's the general idea. And don't get me wrong, there are some that come down and they just park right on spots that little guys, kind of like myself, can't get into. And it's like, you mind bumping out of the way just a quick second so I can grab a couple so I can go back to my own little world.
Or you have everybody's favorite, the brand new level 14 that dumps a little extra money on a ship and sits on a node, it zeroes out, and they sit there for 3 days, and all you can do is, twiddle your thumbs and poke them in the eye. But I think we all have our levels of frustration with stuff like that.
But with that being said, to each their own. Nobody's condemning anybody for playing the way that they play, not by a long shot. There are some irritating things. There are some people that do go a little overboard on how they play, but with respect to it all, everybody's gonna play how they want. Is it irritating? Absolutely, because there's nothing worse than sitting in a system that's got a decent sized node and there's a 14 parked on it, flipping a bird every time you fly by. It's like, look at me, as you go zipping by.
That's the beauty of what I personally just call as the death of Warp 40, is talk about the most singular server row established rule that was just as irritating on both sides of things, is because as Warp 40, you could go and do the exact same thing any level 14 is doing and go have a sandwich and just sit there and mine there for days, and then not give other higher level people the opportunity to be able to come in. So you couldn't hit OP, you couldn't hit, zero nodes, and it was this server row enforced rule that those who did dump money into the game and who can actually have a Warp 40 horizon, because don't get me wrong, my North Star can get there, but I'm not going to sit there and run that thing back and forth over and over and over again. Nobody got time for that.
That's difficult.
So you're looking at both sides of things that are irritating, and it kind of a proving point of where, game progression, in the sense of the way the game was designed, as you said, was pretty much put to a halt because there was no combat at that certain point, and it was deemed by players who, were such and such high level players, controlling the galaxy. And, and maybe Noli will agree with me. I mean, we think we can accredit Dan for taking a stand, whether we were prepared to handle the aftermath of that or not. But it, it really changed things. I think that was a huge shift in our servers, political agenda of things, and, probably gave us a little, bit of a look-see. But I also think that, call us the bad boys of the server, or the pirates, or whatever you want to call us. But, you can honestly say it was a JLP that was, that did the thing that nobody else wanted to do. I would easily say that, the majority of people who could reach Warp 40 I'm not going to throw a percentage number out there, but the majority were all for the death of Warp 40 row, and because of eventually it was going to happen. And then they talked about whether it was going to move to, okay, we'll do it to Warp 45 now. It's like, no, this is the end of this. This is absolutely pointless and a purposeful way of holding people back for somebody else's benefit.
Right. 'Cause the stronger we're just getting stronger, and the ones that are trying to get at least in a fighting stance couldn't get there.
Right. And I mean, it's pretty telling when you look at the absolute fallout from the Warp 40 and Dan's actions there. You know, literally Ghost leadership was willing to break a nap that had been incredibly strong and had led to the downfall of Fed over Warp 40, which was a gentleman's agreement. There was nothing, signed. There was nothing, on paper on the matter.
It was just a handshake.
It was just a handshake. But yet Ghost leadership, all their big boys were so entrenched in how lucrative it was for them that they were willing to toss aside the nap with JLP just for that sake. That meant more to them. And what was the eventual fallout from that is not only did that break JLP away from Ghost, but then Ghost itself reshattered, where the kind of more I'm not going to call them pro JLP, but more favorable leaning towards JLP group broke off to make their own thing, leaving really only the people that were the big buck, 40 supporters left. And they, of course, turned around and said, you know what? We're gonna just we're gonna base raid all your JLP stuff. You guys cool with that? We're gonna change the nap so now it allows for base raids, and we're like, yeah, no, that's not.
Yeah, and it's like you said, in reality, guys like Johnny, guys like Dan, what they do and what they did, it's a double-edged sword. It's a plus side and it's a bad side. It's a blessing and a curse. It made it great because it gave everybody an opportunity. Because now after everything's kind of went through and you've been able to sit down and you think about it, not just from this conversation. This is prior. It truly is a blessing and a curse. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt when you get hit because you got to repair and use whatever resources that you gathered up and speed ups just to hustle back to get back on your spot again if you can make it back there. But that's kind of the one side of the edge of the sword. But when you look at the other side, it was profitable. It made sense. It's like, oh, cool. Well, that just made it easy for me to slide right in there and get my mining on.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're, philosophically speaking, I'm going to never really have much sympathy for miners in this game. If we're talking about any other game like WoW or Star Wars The Old Republic, any other MMO that's got a PvP area, which basically anywhere undocked is, if you went out and you just left your character chopping wood and just decided to walk, put a penny underneath the button that's for chop and go walk off and make a sandwich, and some PvPer walks by, sees you, and just kills you and just carries on, you're going to be like, oh, well, I walked away from my character. That's my bad. But apparently in this game, no. You've committed some grievous moral sin.
Well, I guess, and that's one of the things that it's going to happen. Somebody's going to pop you, regardless whether you're OP, whether you're on a zero, or whether you're just now setting up. There's always that chance for somebody to pop you. And it's part of it. There's a reason why it's a PvP game. Is it nice to have a little bit of time to gather some resources? Sure. But there's no guarantees.
It's just as much as I respect anybody who hits me off my mind, just because they don't like my tag. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll go back there. I still get my dailies done just about every day. Then again, I don't mind gas, so I planned that pretty well. But
I, for the longest time, maintained a personal row of not hitting empty miners, only usually trying to warn people. I'd warn people about other people coming in to hit their miners. that didn't stop, Drelor or various other people from swinging by whenever they saw me and be like, "Nope, you're JLP, you die."
Yeah, that was kind of one of the big things is when the war was going on. It's like, hey, we're gonna go ahead and have a war, and we're just gonna knock the piss out of everything that we can see. And I'm not gonna lie, I participated in it. I tried to
Yeah.
I tried to kind of stay neutral on it and only target the people that I've had issues with in the past. And more often than not, I don't think I've ever hit you, Wingo, ever. We might have played back and forth with our bases, but as far as seeing you mine, I just rolled by. I'm like, she's cool. I don't have to worry about any grief out of her. I'm gonna let her be. And more times than not, more times than not, have I sent messages to JLP going, hey, you're zero node. Just want to give you a heads up. Or hey, you're OP.
And the majority of people appreciate that,
Sure. You're sitting a little heavy on your protected. Don't want anybody stealing it. And I've got the same love back. And believe it or not, here my neighborhood that I'm parked in, I've got a lot of ghosts around me, and I'm like, hey, you guys have a row, right? Yeah, we have a row. So then why the hell did you just hit me if you got a row? Because I understand your row, and if you're following your rules, I'm going to follow your rules because it's just reciprocal. You guys have your rules that you do things, and if you have personal row, like with you, Wingo, I'll come to you and say, hey, you're zero, you're OP or whatever. I'll at least give you a heads up. If there's no other nodes in the area and I kind of need something, and you're part of that row that I follow, I'm going to offer you that courtesy. Say, hey, I don't want to have to hit you. You're zero. You mind if I have it for a little bit and if you want to come back or whatever? That's the cool side of what I see as far as row goes. Now, I don't mind playing by everybody else's rules. I got zero problem with that. If I offer a courtesy to you, I would hope that you would give it back to me. Do I expect it? Absolutely not, because everybody's going to play how they want. Would it be cool to have that nice reciprocal, respect? Absolutely, absolutely, it'd be great. And it's like I said, I've seen you mine in somewhere. It's like I'm not going to pop her OP. I'm just going to be cool about it because you've never really done me dirty. The only people that I go after that do me dirty, that's on them. But as far as I've not seen you do. I don't think you've ever hit me. Um, Guys like Khan, I don't mess with a lot of people. Ghost, same with.
That's a shame. I already drained your base while we were doing this podcast.
Yeah, you didn't.
Yeah, no, we literally were saying that as soon as the podcast starts, we'll start looking for.
I'll send you my coordinates. It's not going to do you much good. I'm bald right now.
Yeah, I got this big old fat bowl. And speaking of which, I just had somebody show me a little bit of love here. Hold on. Went to zero node and UHAB gave me some love, said zero node. All right, cool, man. Usually it's like a 5-minute rule that I give. It's like, hey, you're zero node, 5 minutes. I need the node. If there's other nodes, I leave people alone. Especially if there's open ones.
Oh, sure. I think most of the time is like, if I don't get to you by the time you warp out, because like lately I've been a little bit of real life busy, so I haven't been playing as much as I like to. But if you're zero by the time I warp to you, like that's been my policy lately is I don't need to send you a message. You're not paying attention, And so sometimes I offer the zero nodes because I feel like, and sometimes like I got time for waiting around for 5 minutes. I'm just gonna get if you're not out of here by the time that I get to you, because my work times are pretty high where I'm mining nowadays. I'm like, nah, it's mine. And sometimes they get upset, like, "Where's my warning?" And I was like, well, "Where's my sandwich?"
Where's my sandwich? Well, and that's the funny thing. I typically what I do is, and I'll like say, we'll just say Noli, for instance. I see you're out mining somewhere, and I haven't left my base yet, and I need gas or whatever. I'm like, hey, bud, zero node, 5-minute warning. If it takes me 10 minutes to get there, guess what? You got the extra time to move out of the way. And if I get there in 5 minutes, then I at least upheld my end of what I offered for you, because I'm not gonna sit there and go 5-minute warning, show up in 30 seconds, and then pop you right out the node and take off. Because I feel like I'm not keeping my word to you, and I'm not being honest. So I try to offer courtesy as far as when the game comes, a little common courtesy goes a long way. And like me and you, Wingo, we've chatted back and forth, had some good laughs, had a good time. But I also respect you, and you respect me, and believe you me, that means the world to me that that I can get any respect from anybody that I don't know personally, haven't shaken your hand, give you a hug, shared a meal with, went to the bar and got a beer with, whatever. You know, that means the world to me. Because there's unfortunately just not a lot of respect in this world. It's sad.
It's true. And that's the the thing about common courtesy is how I interact with people is how I want to be interacted with, and that I think that would apply to anybody. Now, on the other hand of things, it's one of those things that, like, if we're getting back to like the core row topic, if somebody asks in my alliance, asks me permission, or like, I really want to hit these guys, and I'm like, go hit those guys. It's how I play in the sense of, but what I can tell people to do in game. It's like, you do what makes you happy. If going out and just being like, well, I hate those Resh guys this week, I'm just gonna go hunt them. Anybody want to go hunt them? And it's like, all right, cool, go hunt them. I think there's an advisory level. It used to be back in the day. Just a quick core background of JLPZ. So Noli had, I don't even remember, the AZ something was the tag of the original JLPZ. And Noli picked us up to create the third branch. And eventually down the line, we were in the discussion with the such strong alliance and family of tribbles that no longer exist. And we had the eventual goal that JLPZ was going to be the row following branch of JLPZ, that there was going to be a little bit more of a community in the sense of like, look, JLP can follow naps. Like, if we choose to follow naps, but have a little bit more freedom in the game, we were going to try to find the balance. That day that we had established, some communications with Tribble, and JLPZ became JLPZ, we were getting hit right off the bat. And I mean, I must have worked for months under Noli's watchful eye to try to get those established. And the respect was just never going to be there. We used to joke around that Tribbles couldn't read because they obviously couldn't see what our tag name was. But and it got to the point where it was like, this is pointless. This is an ongoing battle, an ongoing, and it was tedious for me. I wasn't having fun anymore because I was having to just deal with conflict resolution on a day-to-day basis, and having to negotiate somebody else's base raid because a Tribble raided and drained one of my kids' bases, and then I had to go and organize a way of getting all those resources back. And I was like, this is an absolute waste of time. And then that notion of JLPZ being this, different kind of branch of JLPZ was just, out of my hands. And I even asked permission. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, what do you think about this? And Noli basically said, it's your alliance. So what do you want to do? I was like, I don't want to deal with any of this crap. It's need to be said, we tried many different ways of giving players the opportunity. And at this point, it's, do you want to be able to do whatever you want without, having to ask my permission, although they still do. I'm an advisory person of saying, you can go kill whoever, attack whoever you want. But just remember, at the end of the day, your guys are the ones that are going to take the brunt of it. So, if you want to go kill crazies this week, then expect all of your alliance members to also get attacked by crazies. And if you don't care about that, fine, fantastic, But then nobody can circle around and get upset about that. It's the being of JLPZ that, you got to handle the brunt of it. And sure, we've lost members here and there. I have very, very much fun draining the defectors' bases of JLPZ. I'm not a bitter woman at all. But I don't have all of Shadow's base chords bookmark all at once. No, none of those. But it's a beauty. It's the beauty and the curse of things. But I don't know how you guys feel in the sense of being from a leadership standpoint when you're talking about following row is it can be daunting, and then your job is and enjoyment of the game is so much different because you're having to deal with things on the administration level, and you're like, I'm not even getting paid for this. This is ridiculous. At least in other games you can get taxes off of people. I'm just like, give me some of that ore for dealing with all this crap.
Well, and it's funny you say that because I was one of the generals in INS. I worked my way up, earned my accreditation to get there, and threw down at the moment's notice when it was called upon. But it's like you said, it's a daunting task to sit there. Hey, why did you pop that zero miner? And have to sit there. It's like, well, I'm not getting any of my dailies done. I'm not playing anything of this there. Not doing any of this. Not doing any of that. Not doing the fun things that I want to do. Because I'm too busy sitting here with politics and bureaucracy of dealing with your bullcrap. And it's like, you know what? You made the decision to do that. If you bring hell to my doorstep, I'm going to defend, and I'm going to go pop whoever it was that nailed me, and I'm going to give him a little piece of my mind, and give him a couple phaser banks to the face. But after that, I'm going to deal with you and go, look, I had to go out here and whoop the hell out of them for popping my base. I didn't do anything to them. They hit me. So now I'm dealing with that, trying to get some of my resources back, and now I'm dealing with you. And having that conversation, it's like, look, there are consequences. And the cool thing is, from what I can kind of tell as far as, my interpretation with you guys is you guys know there's going to be consequences. And
we expect them.
And you expect them. And you let them know, hey, there's consequences for this action. So if they come knocking on my doorstep, I'm going to join in. But if I find out it's because you causing it, it's what it is. We'll have our conversation, and then that's that. But just know, I'll back you up because you're family. But just know, there's going to be consequences. And there's that opportunity for the people that were not involved in it to look at that one individual and go, hey, what was that all about?
Right. And we're dealing with that even now with the shuttles, because there are a couple of people that have put individuals on their personal kill on site list, and they're like, hey, so-and-so just killed me. What's going on? Well, go talk to X member because they're killing Y, and now Y's family is coming after us. So, there are consequences, and on our side, it's more of a matter of you have to, like you said, know that there's consequences and who else is getting some of the love in return.
Right. And that's the one thing. It's like, you come to this alliance to follow some rules of engagement and would expect the same in return, but it's not going to work that way all the time. And then you go out here and go, is what I call black flag, and you're like, well, guess what? Black flag's in the air. I'm coming after you. And then you end up starting a 72-hour beatdown because when we all get involved, it's like, all right, well, I've been hit, you've been hit, all right, let's go settle this. And then you guys show up, you stomp a few of their bases into the ground, you drain them, you find their miners, you pop them, you find their ships floating, you pop them. And then eventually at some point in time, they're like, all right, look, white flag, we're done. Or you say, hey, look, after so long, we'll do this for this many hours. Then after that, it's done. And if they pop me after that, then I'll handle it on a one-on-one basis versus hammering everybody, because it's a whole deal. I don't like taking out the frustration of one person doing me dirty on a whole alliance. But at that same time, there's a balance there. It's like if I start popping up people and they ask what happened, it's like, well, this happened. I hated doing that to you, but if you don't mind, bring this up to your leadership and see if we can try to bring somebody to the table to talk so we can resolve this. Because if we can go back to being what we were prior to this happening, it's great. And I like the calm, I like the peace, but I also like to get out there and rumble too. So there is a balance as far as what I've seen on our end of row. But then on the other side, I see
it's a lot of fun, though. It's hard, isn't it?
Yes,
It's fun to go.
it's fun. It's fun to sit there and have a little bit of peace and enjoy yourself. And then when you're dealing with the other side of the coin, it's like, man, I'm tired of
Yeah,
this thing
see,
flipping.
but sadly, that tactic of yours of, oh, okay, well, I'll hit this guy and say, oh, bring it up to your leadership, it doesn't really work with JLP, you know? Sure, they might bring it up with the leadership, but the leadership's going to shrug and just be like, I can't tell my people what to do. That is against our principles.
Gotcha.
So, okay.
Gotcha. All right. Well, awesome. Well, that right there was absolutely enlightening, and thank you guys so much for kind of opening the door and allow us to come in and sit in your guys' living room and talk about how JLP handles not having a row. It was definitely enlightening, and I'm very thankful that you guys took some time out of your day to do that. One more thing that I kind of want to touch on here, and me and Ramius talked about this earlier. The other day with the server flub, and this is going to be kind of a short, kind of give me what your opinion on it is type question. They gave everybody a little bit of love. I noticed on my end, I was a level 25, and I had a friend of mine who's a level 26. The amount of rewards doubled from 25 to 26. I'm not sure if it escalated to higher levels or how it went, but what did you guys feel about the love that Scopely gave everybody? Because we're not really taking a shot at Scopely, but it's gonna be like a, hey, you know, why didn't we just do one whole giant care package for everybody and make it all kind of even, because everybody was affected versus we're going to give this level this much, this level this much, this level this much. And I'm sure that it was something to the effect of, well, if you give a level 39 love to a level 14, it's just going to make them OP, but you're not really making them OP. You're giving it to all the level 14s to boost them up. So what's your guys' opinion on Scopely's love there the other day?
They're gonna love who spends the most money.
Got that crap right. but there are those that will level grind out without spending the amount of whale cash that they get in. So, but as far as just say from a grinding standpoint, what did you guys feel about the love that they spread out to everybody for their flub?
I mean,
No, honestly, I didn't.
yeah, it is what it is. I mean,
Right. We were all that same. It's just, you know, it's always interesting to hear other opinions, because somebody may have something that could eventually help Scopely. It's like, oh well, we could have just given out love to everybody type thing instead of going through there with the coding and saying this gets X, this gets X. It's like everybody gets X and be done with it.
Right. So, Scopely a while back put out like I don't know if it was a press release or if it was just like a marketing junket to their investors. But basically they laid out exactly how some of their algorithms work and how it like tracks where you're having problems in terms of acquiring, certain randomly generated stuff, and only makes it harder. There's a reason why that the quote unquote bug that, you know, as you're sitting there spending speed 'em up tokens, it will suddenly jump down a unit after so many presses, so that you're pressing the wrong one, a less effective one.
Uh-huh.
There's a reason why the insta buy is something like 30% more expensive than if you take the time to actually go in and purchase the speed up to get it done just as fast. They've got algorithms that are constantly tracking whatever you buy. If you think that the prices that you're seeing on the packages, what you're being offered in the packages, things like that are random or tiered in some kind of capacity outside of your particular spending habits and your particular needs, you're wrong.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh, totally. I was looking. I did a level up. I was tracking a certain package I was going to invest in to assist me with a ship, and I transitioned a level by grinding, and I saw that same package that I've been watching for about 2 weeks suddenly change to make it so what I needed for that ship, even buying that package wasn't going to do it. It's like, oh, okay, I got it. I see exactly what you guys are up to. So just
it's unrelated, but I'll send you a video that talks about how their algorithms, not theirs specifically, but the way it works in the market.
Yeah, that's cool. Interesting to see.
Awesome.
And if you circle back, to touch, because I know we're trying to wrap things up here, but how do you get people to spend more money in game? You give them the lack of resources that they need. And then when those people don't want to spend money, where do you think these supposed wars that people inflict on like us come from? It's because they're bored.
Yeah.
It's because they need content, and JLP provides content.
Very true. Very true.
It always gets the worst whenever they cut off new players to the server. Whenever there are an influx of new players, then everybody has someone to raid. Everyone has something to do, and we can all just beat up on the new bloods. It's only when that door gets shut and stuff starts to get, the resources start to get more aggregated to specific individuals, the fighting starts to really kind of break out amongst the groups.
And then they spend more money.
There you go. Awesome. All right. Last thing here I'm going to touch on, make it real quick, good, bad, or ugly. This is what I'm going to call this segment. Actually, it's we're going to call this In the Van with Shoddy. There's a running joke. When you guys go back to listen to the intro episode, you'll understand where In the Van with Shoddy comes from. Saviors. Need I say more? Good, bad, ugly. Good for the server, bad for the server. Pain in the butt.
Saviors being the Negans, the Megans as we call them.
The Negans, yes.
Yes, we lovingly call some of them the Megans because
the Megans.
they're a little softer. I mean, it's the same. It's the same It's the refugees left over from whatever this coalition of war is. Okay. And you know what? If they're having fun, good for them.
Okay.
They are aware that that Negan lost in the show, right?
Yeah, I never watched the show.
Well, I think they forgot that one. All right. Well, that's awesome. Well, hey,
I don't know which part's funnier, the fact she doesn't watch the show or the fact they lost in the...
Awesome. Well, any closing thoughts, comments that you guys have for us?
Well, in the sense of, I'd say, if people want to try to get JLP to change, it's always going to be a losing battle. We talked about the other day, like how many original alliances are still on our server that haven't broken to pieces, and I don't see us ever losing any kind of power or any kind of mobility. We're having fun. Our players are as close knit as I'm sure other people's are, but at the end of the day, like whatever anybody wants to try to propose and throw at us, as whether it's trying to get us to follow row or trying to break us down as an alliance is kind of entertaining on our end. It gives us more stuff to talk about and more things to joke about and more memes to create. We have a bunch of those.
It's content.
So, I'd say
be included.
Yeah, I'd say if as long as everyone is having fun, and then you're doing something right. If you're not having fun, then you're playing the game wrong. And if they need some advice, they can come talk to me. I have lots of space.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on here. We'd love to have you guys back. Maybe not necessarily as a row JLP, just kind of as guests. I've enjoyed you guys tremendously. You have no idea how much this actually means to me. You guys jumping on the show with us and just chatting and just talking about a little bit of everything. Obviously, we talked a lot about the doings of who we are, where we are. But definitely love to have you guys back on just to discuss anything else, about the game. What can we do to improve it as far as, what if anybody ever listens to it, what can be done to improve the game as far as make it a little bit more enjoyable, or if there's bugs or something that we can kind of bring up.
Yeah, of course. That would be awesome. Anytime.
Awesome. Well, cool. Thank you guys again so much. folks, this is Lieutenant Wingo and Noli. We appreciate you guys coming on. As for myself, Shoddy, I'm going to bounce out of here and y'all have a good night. Thank you, Ramius, for co-hosting me with this thing. This is a cool endeavor, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate everybody being here, and we'll do this again soon.
All right, folks, this right here wraps up the first episode of Running Deep with Shoddy and Ramius. Thanks again, guys, so much for coming in, and have a good one. We'll see you on the battlefield.
Take care. I'm going to bed.
Yeah, man. Live long and kick ass. I'm out.
Remember to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Click like if you do, subscribe, and click the bell to be alerted when the latest episodes are available.